How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
Good. Does it sound okay?
Oh, that sounds pretty fine to me.
Nice.
All
I'm
right.
just at work here. We just installed the Wi-Fi up here, so it should be nice and fresh.
Okay, all right. Like it. I like it. I like the vibe too. The
Yeah,
bells in the background.
it's pretty cool.
All right. So do you work at
Yeah.
like a brewery, at a restaurant? What's going on here?
Yeah, so I work at a brewery in Toronto, Blood Brothers Brewing, and it's great. I've been here for probably 2.5 years now, closer to three, and yeah, it's there's never a dull moment, but yeah, it's nice to take a break during the day and do things like this.
Well, it's good that they allow you the opportunity to take
Yeah,
time to do things like this too.
yeah. They were musicians before they opened the brewery, so they sort of understand
Okay.
a lot of the stuff behind it. Yeah,
Artist lifestyle.
that's it. Yeah.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. All right. Well, we're here to dive into a little bit about your artist lifestyle here. A slow
Mhm.
burn.
Mhm.
All right. All right. So, are you ready to dive into it?
Sure. Let's do it.
Awesome. Awesome. So, of course, I want to talk about a little bit of the road that leads up to slow burn. And I see that before this solo venture, you were doing the band life, touring around with that. So, what exactly made you make the decision to go into this solo route?
Yeah. So I had been playing in bands and like group dynamics for ever, basically, until this record, and I think it came down to a lot of just, um, the songs I was writing were becoming more and more kind of personal ventures, and um, not that it was difficult to transpose that to a group setting and other people, but I found myself, I think, sort of trying to control a lot of the stuff that happened in the group settings, and um, that was never a recipe that was, going to work for just original songs and everybody trying to input. I just had to get like my own thing out there, and this is where it led me. So that being said, we've been rehearsing full band for this stuff, and it's been great. And I think these songs that I wrote on this solo thing were definitely the most honest because I knew I didn't have to write any parts thinking about what the bass would sound like or thinking about like what a key part underneath everything would be. It was just locked in a room with an acoustic guitar, and this is the songs that came out. Yeah.
All right, awesome. So, of course, you released one single before Slow Burn here, before the situation that inspired Slow Burn. So, I want to talk about Unaware and the situation that inspired that.
Yeah, so that was I was at a point where I had just gotten out of a relationship. That was about 5 years, and it was definitely a point in my life where I was turning a new page and turning a new leaf, and I knew that uh, I needed to get something out musically because I hadn't really put anything out for a couple of years until Unaware, and so that was the first time that I kind of sat down with the acoustic and tried to sort of render my thoughts into some coherent melody and words. And I messaged Brandon Federo, who just opened his independent studio in Kitchener there, and I asked him if he would be interested in recording this one song, just super simple, like me and an acoustic guitar, and he was down for that. So that's sort of how that song came to be. And then um, once I had the material for Slow Burn written, I knew that I kind of wanted to reach out to Brandon again and see if he'd be interested in taking the same approach, the same sort of spontaneous, just like, go in there prepared and whip it off super quick off the floor. And that's sort of the journey to getting to Slow Burn from Unaware. Um, it was really important, that first song, because it showed me to myself that I was able to just sit and sort of write something really raw and transparent and honest, and get it out there and have it sound decent. And um, I think that sort of opened the door and gave me the confidence to write the material for Slow Burn.
Okay, so that was that essential bricklaying process in order to build the foundation.
Yeah, it was. It's something that you don't really think about a whole lot until after, but it was definitely an important track to put out there for me, um, to kind of launch the solo thing and get comfortable as a solo musician.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So, of course, with Slow Burn, that's sort of influenced by our situation in today's world, which
Mhm.
unfortunately we all happen to be dealing with at the time. You were in the United States in March. You were in Arizona. You were in the middle of the United States as things were starting to pop off in North America. So, what was that like, and how did you turn that energy into this album?
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, no one had ever really gone through anything like that before, so we were all, you know, just rolling with the punches, in Canada and U.S. and all over the world, and it was just really peculiar because before we went down, there were obviously questions about safety and health regulations and what you could and couldn't do, and um, once we got there, it was like nothing was happening. It was just everything was operating normal, and nobody was taking any health precautions. And I sort of saw that as, the U.S. being the U.S. and like doing whatever it wants. But at the same time, it's like, I think coming from Canada, we had a bit more of an angle as to where this was going to go, not necessarily what was just happening in the moment. And they didn't have that down there. It was really lax. There was no restrictions or regulations. Probably if you ask the majority of people there, they'd say it wasn't real or at the time. And so from there, it was, we got, when we were there, like obviously things started shutting down, and you're watching the news and you're seeing, all these basketball games being postponed and all these, whatever being shut down. And we were concerned that the borders were going to close before we could get out. So um, luckily, we got back to Toronto on the 14th, and then on the 15th, the borders closed. So we got back in right at the nick of time, and then yeah. So it was definitely an experience, but like you said, it gave me a sort of interesting angle to write from, because at that point, um, coming from the States, I had to isolate for 2 weeks, and I had just 2 weeks out of nowhere to kind of sit with my thoughts and transpose it, into melodies and words. And um, at the time, when I first got back, I was kind of frustrated because uh, there were more questions than answers, and I think everyone was a little uneasy with that. Um, so I didn't know if I would have a job. I didn't know what, the financial situation was going to be for me. I didn't know anything. And it kind of led to a point where I was like in my room, isolating with a guitar, and I was like, okay, it's now or never. There's a song on the record called No Better Time Than Now, because there's literally, for me in my life up to that point, there's never been more content or um, inspiration to write about something that's happening to all of us. And I think it was something I had to do, and it was really important for me to do. And um, yeah, Wind Song was the first song that I wrote after I got back, and I think you can kind of tell by listening to that song where my head was at when I first got back.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Wind Song is actually one of the tracks I would love to dive into here today. So
Yeah.
please, let's talk a little bit more about this song.
Yeah, it was the first one I wrote, and it was one of the first times I'd written all of the words before the music. I typically like to write the melodies first and then put the words, just sprinkle the words on top after. But this was also the first song where I had more words than like time for the song. I couldn't do 5 verses because, you know, I didn't want a 7.5-minute song, but it was really liberating to dive into that. And it was, the angle of the song is from a sort of American side where, you know, talking about, you know, rewarding the ones who always betray, who speak the loudest in such swift decay. It's kind of putting a mirror up to what I thought the political landscape was like in the United States, you know, for the last 4 years, essentially. And just being honest and trying to get to that honest part of myself to write something that's truthful and that I think is truthful. And I'm really proud of that song because it packs a lot of punch for you know, just being kind of a swashbuckly old school folk, you know, song. It's the music's very simple, but the words kind of add all the dynamics and layers to it.
Yeah, no, it's the words definitely do hit you, especially with the chorus when it keeps coming back to you, and it's like when she asks me if I'm awake, and I was like,
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah. It's, I've been told that I try to keep my ear to the ground for, you know, political news and stuff, and just because I think it's important. It's, you know, a big reason I think we're in the position we're in as a society is because a lot of people just don't care about it. They like to tune it out. They feel as though their thoughts and opinions don't really matter in the grand context of what's happening in political landscapes in everywhere, in every country. And the reality is it's not true. Like, all those people that are voted into those positions work for you. They're civil servants who work for you, and they work for us. And, you know, I was just kind of, I guess, over and upset and tired at the fact that a lot of these people don't work for the people anymore. They work for themselves, and they put their own self-interest ahead of the interests of the public. And that's just, it's kind of backwards. And you see what happens when that sort of ideology takes over, you know, a government or a party. And it just so happened that we're living in the time right now where there's also a global pandemic on top of that. So it's a lot of stuff in that song, but it's definitely one that I'm proud of, and it absolutely won't be the last kind of song like that I write, for sure.
So lock all the doors, wave bye to your friends as the panic sets into those light-hearted men. And if you read enough news, it sure feels like the end. The burdens we bear are now not pretend. No more work here today, no, and maybe not again. Spent 2 years destroying my body for you. Please don't throw me away, I need my money, not your praise. When they tell you don't worry, you can't hesitate. Then she looked at me wide-eyed, it pierced through my soul. She asked if I'm awake, if I'd given up the ghost. I said the devil's coming around and he's stopped in our town. So make sure the doors, they are painted top down. Through history's words, we should have saved the day, but we kept on tripping on stones that we placed, rewarding the ones who always betray, who speak the loudest in such swift decay. So I looked in the mirror without any filter. In silence arose as I questioned the world, and as I fell to my knees in a great I just hope to God someone else felt the weight. No, 'cause this ain't the world that I grew up to love. Now run by apartheid who silence the crowds, transforming into a broken silhouette. And the wind played a song that I'll never forget. Then she looked at me wide-eyed, it pierced through my soul. She asked if I'm awake, if I'd given up the ghost. I said the devil's coming round and he's stopped in our town. So make sure the doors, they are painted top down. His perfect harmony is watching us bleed. Fat cat collects green at the expense of you and me. More complicated ways tired faces can relate. A tactic that's used to mush all the brains. So I'm packing up my car and I'm headed on my way, away from the talk boxes telling me my fate. Just drop me in the desert where I feel most at home, where slow burning heathens don't feel so alone. Then she looked at me wide-eyed, it pierced through my soul. She asked if I'm awake, if I'd given up the ghost. I said the devil's coming round and he's stopped in our town. So make sure the doors, they are painted top down. Bruised, battered and baked, and I guess that now it shows. I'm trapped in a hurricane, but I know that you're close. Let's find common ground here or just somewhere around. There's a good chance the ground's just frozen the town. Like a flower in outer space, just bleeding for relief. These new revelations keep giving me grief. I'm just trying to eat, man, I'm just trying to sleep, man. You got yours and I got mine, don't mean I'm fine. And as the night takes my hand again, disguises my friend. Quit dragging us through the mud, yeah, I'll say it again. Now the rich man cries foul and he say it ain't fair. When his deal with the devil's now you're crossed to bear. And she looked at me wide-eyed, it pierced through my soul. She asked if I'm awake, if I'd given up the ghost. I said the devil's coming around and he's stopped in our town. So make sure the doors, they are painted top down.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
Absolutely, absolutely. I also want to dive into another track off of this album, Back Down the Road. It's a track that you released a music video for. Definitely something I want to speak about too. But once again, I sort of want to dive down this song. So is this just going back through different experiences, or what exactly is inspiring Back Down the Road here? Is it like pushing through things that maybe you couldn't push through before?
Yeah, it's the main sort of context of the song is, pushing, like you said, pushing through life with the subconscious or conscious inner voice that we all have. And for some people it's louder than others, but we all have it, and we've all been assigned that voice, and whether we like it, it's kind of like family. Like whether we like it or not, we have to deal with it. And sometimes it leads you to make choices that are a little bit questionable, and sometimes it leads you to make choices that are amazing for your life. And in the context of Back Down the Road, it was, it's kind of like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over but expecting a different result. And I think a lot of times for me, like I can get caught up in my head thinking about specific things or specific things that happened in the past or may happen or may not happen. And, sometimes you trip over your thoughts and you trip over yourself and you kind of stop yourself from progressing forward in life. And the key, I think, is just to do whatever it takes to keep moving forward in a healthy way. And for that song, it was very much about, turning over a new page and turning over a new leaf and trying to get back to that familiar road of feeling good and feeling like yourself again, because, there's a whole sort of undertone, I think, on the album of, just the world around us right now. It's never been easier to sort of get dragged down by just observing and just by, reading and watching the news. And, it's important to remember that it's not always going to be this way. It will get better, and we will all find our way back to our own independent, familiar road. And how we get there, we don't know. We can claim that we know, but ultimately that's kind of what that song is about. And the video kind of shows that too, where we shot it on a day that I thought was going to be sunny, and it turned out to be freezing cold and raining. So I was like, oh, okay, this is the vibe of the song. Now this is what it's going to be going forward. It worked out really well. Yeah.
No, it did work out incredibly well. So the concept of the video where you're walking backwards, but you're talking the song through forward like the song plays. So is that how it was recorded, where you're actually walking backwards and playing, or how was this done?
Yeah, so we'd experimented with trying to sing backwards, and it just sounded like this weird demonic spell that was going on. And like the Beatles' White Album, when they reverse the song at the end, and it's like, oh, they're conjuring up all the demons and spirits. It sounded like that. So we knew that wasn't going to work. So what we did was the parts where I was walking backwards and singing, I was walking backwards, but I was singing forwards 3 times as fast. So we could sort of match up the music with the words and match up all the shots later on in post. And then everything else we would shoot and have the actors move backwards, walk backwards. And then a lot of stuff with the camera was just reversed as well. But, I credit all of that to Kyle Sawyer, and he directed it, and he sort of sat down with me and hashed out this concept for it. And so I owe a lot of credit to him and Paul Duck, who was the cinematographer that day. They both hustled that day. It was cold and wet, and we were under the gun. It was getting dark out too, so the whole video was a little bit darker, I think, than we wanted it to be, but it all sort of worked for the aesthetic of the song and the words. And it's funny how it's kind of an upbeat melody and almost like a happy-go-lucky melody, but the words, again, are kind of not that. So it worked. The vibe of the video worked out really well.
Absolutely. So I also want to dive into a little bit more of the creation of this album, because like you said, it was written while you were in quarantine, and you did partner up with Brandon again for Slow Burn. So because it was a small crew, were you able to get into the actual studio with him? Did you do this sort of a home studio situation and send him the files? How did that work out?
Yeah, so I had approached him after I'd written, I think, 5 of the 6 songs, and I said, hey man, I don't know what the status of the studio is, whether you're having people in there, but I have this group of songs, and I kind of want to record all of them at the same time, as opposed to maybe doing 2 or 3 and then releasing that and then waiting a bit and releasing another 2 or 3. So I reached out to Brandon, and we did a pre-production session over Zoom, which I had never done before. I'd always gone into the studio to do pre-production just because, communication and, hashing out ideas and all that kind of stuff works better in person.
Yes.
But yeah, to our credit, it was a very seamless pre-production process over Zoom, where it was just literally me playing the song like this to Brandon, and Brandon being like, nope, that's good. We're just going to record it like that. That's great. Structure's great. Melodies are sweet. Maybe like change this or change that, tweak that. And then from there, it was, I think I was the first or second client that he had back in the studio after the first big wave of COVID. So we took all the safety protocols, and he made me sign all the documents, and I was like, whatever, sure. So we did that, and we went in the studio, and because we had done the pre-production the way that we did, I sort of just came in with the acoustic guitar and tracking day one. We just went right into it. It's funny, the acoustic guitar on Back Down the Road, I thought that was going to be just like the test sample take, but we ended up using that take for the track, which was interesting. And it adds, I can hear it. I don't know if anybody else can hear it, but it adds a very human element, because I wasn't really thinking about playing it when I played it. So it was cool that way to see how that formed. But yeah, it was, once we got in there, it took us 3 days to record 6 songs. So we were going at a pretty good clip. It would be like I played the acoustic bed tracks, and we'd record those, and then Brandon would hop on the drums, and we'd come up with a drum part for the song that we thought fit best. And then from there, it was bass, and then we'd throw some electric guitar on there, and then we'd finish up with some keys just to sort of wrap it all up. And by the end, I think it was 4 days all in, which was great because we'd budgeted 6, so we had 2 days after to just sort of relax and think about the songs and what may or may not need to be in there, we can add in later. And it was a very, very streamlined, seamless process. And Brandon, he I think we both sort of understand how each other works in the actual studio setting. Like, I tend to work very quick. I don't like overthinking anything. I come in prepared, and I know what I'm going to play, and I know what I'm going to sing, and I just get in there and I do it, and then I, clock out and go back home, kind of thing. But this was a great, incredibly liberating process for me to record a group of songs as opposed to just one, because the last probably 5-6 years I've done like the Unaware thing, where you put out 1 or 2 really, really strong songs, and then there's that's kind of it. So for this one, I knew I wanted to put a collection together, and it happened really, really seamlessly.
All right, awesome. It sounds like it came together very naturally.
Yeah.
All right, so I also want to talk about the virtual EP release show that you did in September, and you also mentioned that you're working on sort of a full band thing as well with this project. So is that for a future virtual show?
Yeah, so right now we're rehearsing, trying to rehearse, assuming, everything stays open and everything's safe. So we're aiming for mid-January to have a virtual show, full band. And it's going to be, as real of a show as we can put together without actually having people there, being in a venue or anything, which is the best part, is playing to people. It's the thing I miss the most about all this is just playing to actual people as opposed to playing to some cameras and like 2 camera operators, which is fine, but it's not the same. Back in, I think, I want to say May or June, I played 2 sets at Christie Pitts Park in Toronto, just sort of guerrilla style, set up a PA and a generator and a mic and just take the acoustic guitar down there. And I opened up a comedy show that was happening down there for a couple of weeks, and it was really strange playing a song and finishing a song and hearing clapping, because I hadn't heard that in a while, and it kind of threw me. But it was great because it was the first time I'd played any of these songs for people, and at that point, I knew that the people sort of enjoyed the songs, and there was definitely a resonating factor, I think, with people for these songs, and it's been amazing. Like ever since the release on September 4th, the feedback for the EP has been extremely positive, and it's really given me the confidence to want to get back in there and write more. And but it's with everything happening right now, you got to be patient. So slow steps, and so mid-January we're planning the full band show. We're hoping to work again with Good Company Productions based out of Kitchener. They helped me with my initial EP release show, which was just an acoustic thing with Brandon, which went really well. So more info will be released when we get it. Everything's up in the air again, so it's just a matter of trying to find the safest route for everybody and actually continue to produce content and put it out there in a way that's everybody can enjoy.
Really, exactly. It's just continuing to adapt and figure things out, because as you said at the beginning of this is sort of something none of us have dealt with before, so really the best way to find out what's going on in the future is to follow those Matthew Burkhart social feeds and keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes and your ears open.
Exactly, that's it.
All right, well, Matt, I can see that you're at work, and I don't want to keep you from your work too long. I don't want you to get in trouble with your bosses here. So I want to thank you so very much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us, to take us behind Slow Burn.
I really appreciate it, and thank you for giving me this platform. Like, it's these kind of platforms that are really helping musicians in this time. So we all appreciate this chance to talk and get our stuff out there. So thank you.
Hey, it's mutual. It's mutual, my friend. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well. Take care.
Back down the road.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
Ambush! Thank you for tuning in to this video interview here on the Desert Tiger Colton G YouTube page featuring Matthew Burkhart. Down below, you can find a link to listen to Matthew Burkhart's new EP, Slow Burn, on Spotify. It's available on all other streaming platforms as well. It's also available on Bandcamp for you to pick up. We're also going to put some links to his social media so that you can follow him there. Find out when that upcoming virtual concert's going down so that you can be a part of the audience. Down below, you can also subscribe to the Desert Tiger Colton G YouTube page. You can also find a link to DesertTigerMerch.com where you can pick yourself up something from the show to represent your love of Desert Tiger everywhere you go. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to this video interview. We've got a lot more of them coming your way, plus some upcoming vlog episodes once we revive that, plus so much more. So like I said before, you can subscribe down below. And until next time, bye-bye.